If you've been doing this work for a while, and you're starting to realize that stopping the behavior isn't the same thing as actually changing your life, then this episode is going to land differently for you. Because at some point, recovery stops being about just getting through the day, and it starts becoming about understanding what's actually happening underneath everything you've been dealing with. What you're about to hear is a deeper conversation around something called the Unified Flux Model. And whether that language feels familiar to you or not, what matters is this. This is about understanding why you feel pulled in certain directions, why cravings feel so strong, and why change can feel possible one moment and completely out of reach the next. As you listen, don't try to take in everything all at once. Just pay attention to what stands out to you, because that usually tells you where your work is right now. Take a listen.
Welcome to this really pivotal discussion. This is where the work really shifts from just fundamentally rebuilding your relationship with yourself and with reality, really.
It's a huge milestone. And you're right, the material this week, Surrendering to Transformation, it introduces some pretty sophisticated concepts. They can be challenging.
It can.
We're moving beyond just recognizing patterns. We're now looking at the deepest, the physics and the neuroscience behind what it means to transform.
And our roadmap for this is the Unified Flux Model, the UFM, which was created by the counselor and educator, Mental Mike. And his framework is so powerful because he doesn't just stick to one thing. I mean, with over 30 years of experience, 4 master's degrees, he pulls from quantum physics, neuroscience, personal empowerment, and he makes it all actionable.
Exactly. Mike's central argument in the UFM is that we need to stop looking at addiction as, just a brain disease or some kind of moral failure.
Because that framework just leads to so much shame, right? It keeps you stuck.
It keeps you stuck. Instead, the Unified Flux Model suggests that addiction is, at its core, an energetic disconnection.
Okay, let's unpack that right away. Because energetic disconnection, that can sound a little abstract. What does that actually mean for you listening?
Think of it like this. Your natural state is one of dynamic, sustainable flow, like a well-wired electrical circuit.
Okay.
An energetic disconnection is like the system is constantly short-circuiting. You're using these massive, unsustainable bursts of power, the artificial high, and that just leaves the rest of your system completely depleted.
Unable to maintain balance.
Exactly. So our mission this week is to understand why this happens and, more importantly, how you can consciously start to reroute that energy flow.
I love how tangible that makes it. So for the next few minutes, we're going to explore that UFM mission, how your cravings exist as raw potential, how your attention literally creates your reality, and how to use concrete techniques to realign with this unified flux. It's about taking back control of your own focus.
And we start with the most fundamental concept of the UFM. It's the quantum self, or what Mike calls the borrowed molecules concept.
I find this idea so, profoundly comforting. We spend so much time defining ourselves by our mistakes, creating this fixed, solid identity of the addict.
But the reality is you are not a fixed identity at all. You're a process. Mental Mike reminds us that every single atom in your body right now, the calcium, the carbon, was forged in the core of a star.
Stardust.
Literally stardust. It was absorbed by plants, cycled through the earth, and is now just temporarily assembled as you. You are in constant exchange with the universe. You're not solid, you're dynamic.
Okay, so here's where the UFM makes this practical for recovery. If I'm a process, if I'm just borrowed molecules, what's the core takeaway for me?
The liberation. The liberation comes from realizing that the addicted version of yourself is not your fixed fate. It is just a reinforced pattern, a temporary configuration of molecules and neural pathways.
A pattern that can be changed.
Because the underlying substance of who you are is eternal. It's constantly renewing. From a quantum perspective, as the UFM explains it, you exist as a wave function of probability.
Hold on. Wave function of probability. Can you put that in human terms for us?
Absolutely. It just means that the sober you, the thriving you, the healing you, all of those possibilities are already available. They exist right now, right alongside the possibility of relapse.
So they're all just potential.
They're all coexisting as potential, like a cloud holds the potential for rain or sunshine. Which version actually shows up, which one manifests, depends entirely on where you direct your energy, where you direct your attention.
That puts the power right back in our court. But why does the brain get locked into that pattern of disconnection to begin with? This is where Mental Mike provides the bridge, right? Connecting the UFM's energetic flow to hard chemistry.
Yeah, specifically the dopamine system. This is where borrowed molecules becomes borrowed energy.
Right.
In a healthy system, you get these dopamine surges from natural things, connection, accomplishment, love, and these surges are proportional. They're sustainable. They gently reinforce life-affirming behaviors.
But artificial substances, I mean, they just create chaos. When Mike talks about something like methamphetamine spiking dopamine by 1,200%, that's not a gentle wave, that's a tsunami.
It is, and the UFM calls this energetic debt. That level of unnatural pleasure is literally borrowed from your future self. The brain is so overwhelmed, it tries to protect itself by reducing its own sensitivity. It prunes away dopamine receptors. It's a process called downregulation.
And we can see this on PET scans. The practical result of that downregulation is this deep, lasting neurochemical deficit where everyday life just feels dull, gray, unmotivating.
The system is short-circuited.
Exactly.
You have fewer channels to receive pleasure naturally. You stole joy from your future. And now in early recovery, you have to walk through that discomfort, that energetic deficit, to repay the debt and let the system regrow those receptors.
Mike also looks at this from a psychological angle, how this deficit collapses what he calls our ego states. He says addiction disrupts the harmony between the parent, the adult, and the child inside us.
Right. When the system is depleted, the rational adult just sort of collapses. The inner parent ramps up all the shame and the criticism.
And the impulsive child takes the wheel.
The child takes the wheel, seeking immediate comfort. The whole system gets locked into this rigid, compulsive pattern. It just destroys that natural energetic flow.
So if the brain is locked into that state because of the energetic debt, that brings us back to that quantum idea about cravings. This is revolutionary. The UFM teaches that cravings are not unavoidable commands.
No. They exist in a state of quantum superposition. And this is such a powerful realization because it means you are, at the same time, capable of resistance and relapse. Both outcomes are equally real until you act.
So you're saying the decision is genuinely undecided. It's hanging in the balance until I actively choose.
Yes. And the choice is made by what we call the observer effect. It's about where you put your attention. If you engage with the craving, with that voice that says, I need this, or I deserve a break,
You're feeding it energy.
you're focusing your attention, and that collapses the wave function toward the using state. Suddenly, that impulse feels inevitable. It feels like you have no choice.
But on the other hand, if you practice what Mike calls mindful detachment,
Then you're withholding the energy. You're not collapsing the wave. You just observe the craving neutrally, like watching a cloud pass in the sky.
and that's the strategic move.
It is. Neuroscience shows us the more attention you give it, the stronger it gets. But the UFM assures us that a craving is a temporary energetic sexuation. It typically only lasts 15 to 30 minutes. If you refuse to engage, it will pass. It's not about willpower. It's about understanding the physics of your own mind.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Core Concept 4 adds this whole other layer of depth.
Yeah.
The UFM argues that addiction can be an imprint of unresolved ancestral trauma.
Yeah, and this is so important for reducing that toxic burden of personal shame. We move beyond just our personal story and recognize that trauma from previous generations, war, famine, severe stress, it doesn't just disappear. It can leave molecular scars on your DNA. We call it epigenetics.
And these epigenetic scars are like little dimmer switches on your genes, right?
Yeah.
They don't change the DNA itself, but they change how the genes are expressed. They can switch a gene for stress response on or off.
Exactly. That's the inheritance. You might inherit a nervous system that's just primed for hyperarousal and anxiety, what Mike calls HPA axis dysregulation, even if your own life is pretty stable. Addiction then becomes this desperate subconscious attempt to medicate an inherited discomfort.
So why should I care about what happened to my great-grandparents? How does cleaning up an inherited energetic imprint help my recovery today?
Well, first, your shame decreases because you realize you might be dealing with a vulnerability you didn't personally create. And second, and this is so powerful, healing your own addiction becomes an act of ancestral healing. You are clearing energetic distortions. You are interrupting a transmission cycle that may have gone on for generations. And that is a profound motivation to keep going when this work gets hard.
It really is.
Strategy 1 is mindful detachment. The goal here is just observation without engagement. Mike introduces a technique called cognitive diffusion.
And the linguistic trick here is huge. Instead of thinking I need to use, You reframe it.
You reframe it to, I am noticing the thought that I need to use.
That one little shift creates this crucial distance. It moves it from urgency to just curiosity. And we use the energetic inventory mapping to ground it in the body. Where is it? A knot in your gut, a pulsing in your forehead.
When you see it as a localized, temporary energy instead of an overwhelming command, you strip it of its power.
Okay, what if detachment is just too hard in that moment?
That's strategy 2, energy disruption. You have to shift your state dramatically. The simplest disruptor is physical movement. 10 minutes of a brisk walk can totally interrupt the craving feedback loop.
It burns off the stress hormones.
It does. And for a deeper reset, there's breath work. Exercise 2, it has you do the extended exhale, a 4-count inhale, then an 8-count exhale. That long exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest system, which directly counters the stress fueling the craving.
And for a really radical shift, the UFM suggests cold exposure.
It sounds intense, but a cold shower or just holding ice packs is so effective. It triggers a massive release of norepinephrine and can naturally boost your own dopamine by up to 250%. It's a natural flood of balanced neurochemicals that just disrupts the whole compulsive cycle.
And if the trauma is really held in the body, Mike's UFM offers exercise 3, somatic emotional clearing. This uses shaking and sound to physically release that stored tension.
Exactly. You're clearing blockages that keep the pattern locked in. Finally, there's strategy 3. Conscious reality selection. This is the proactive part.
This is where you choose which quantum possibility to bring into reality.
Through focused intent. Visualization is key. In exercise 4, you mentally rehearse a sober future. You see yourself handling stress successfully, and this is amazing. That mental rehearsal activates up to 80% of the same brain regions as actually doing it.
You're programming your brain for success, and you reinforce that with affirmations' daily intentions like, today I choose sobriety. You're actively collapsing the probability wave toward recovery.
And to tie it all back, exercise 5 is an ancestral healing ritual. It's a conscious act of releasing that inherited pain and committing to a new legacy. It confirms your choice of reality on the deepest possible level.
It's an incredible amount of material, but when you boil it all down, what is the core insight of the Unified Flux Model that Mike really wants you to grasp this week?
That you are not a fixed entity. The addicted version of you is temporary. It's a reinforced pattern that can be shifted. Recovery is simply about returning to sustainable natural energy patterns and reclaiming your molecular sovereignty.
You're right to decide where your energy and attention go.
Exactly.
You have to trust that this work is happening at the deepest level. The U of M teaches that your neurochemical systems are upregulating. The neural pathways are rewiring. Even those inherited epigenetic patterns are shifting. It's real, it's cumulative, even if you can't feel the molecules moving yet.
The commitment you make today is changing the story for generations, past, present, and future.
I want you to consider this final provocative thought, based on Mike's UFM. You've learned that your personal healing extends beyond just you. It affects your ancestors and your descendants. Knowing that you are interrupting a cycle of pain, what does that profound responsibility mean for the commitment you make to this challenging work today?
I didn't think it was going to hit like that. I've heard people talk about addiction before, like disease or bad choices. And I always just kind of picked whichever one made me feel less like it was my fault. But that thing they said about it being like an energy thing, like something's just off inside, like you're short-circuiting, that felt way too familiar. Because that's exactly what it feels like. It's not like I wake up and go, yeah, let's ruin everything today. It's like everything already feels off before I even do anything. Like I'm already drained, already behind, already not okay. And then, yeah, I reach for something. And I always told myself it was because I was weak or I just didn't care enough. But hearing that about borrowing from your future, that messed with me. Because, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like after. Everything just goes gray, like nothing hits right anymore, nothing's enough. And I just keep trying to get back to that one moment that doesn't even last. I never thought about it like I was creating that feeling myself. I always thought it was just how I am. But if it's not fixed, if it's just a pattern, then that means I'm not stuck like this. That part about cravings, that they're not commands, that they're just there until you do something with them. I don't think I've ever actually seen it that way, because when it hits, it feels like it's already decided, like I'm already gone. But maybe I'm not. Maybe it's just sitting there, waiting on me. That actually scares me a little, because that means it's on me. But it also means I have a second wick, a window. And I don't think I've ever really used that window before. I just react every time. And that thing they said about just noticing it, not becoming it. I'm noticing the thought that's so small, but it's not, because it's distance. I've never had distance from it. It's always just been me. And then the part about it not even all being mine, that some of this could have been there before me. I don't know why, but that made me feel less broken. Like maybe I didn't just mess myself up for no reason. And if that's true, then fixing it isn't just about me either. I don't know. I'm not sitting here like everything's different now. It's not, but something shifted. Like I can see what's happening instead of just being in it. And that's new. That's really new. Maybe that's where it starts.
If something in this conversation stood out to you, don't ignore that. That's usually where the work begins. Recovery isn't about trying harder. It's about understanding what's actually happening and learning how to respond differently over time. If you're ready to take the next step, you can find resources, guidance, and support at soulrecoveryhub.com. Take what you heard today, sit with it, and keep moving forward. Copyright 2026, Mental Mike, all rights reserved.